Hi everyone, this is Reg Athwal and welcome back to our channel for all of you loyal fans. And for those of you very new, today we've got an episode for next gen entrepreneurs. I've got a fabulous guest for you today. And it's only fair that I give you a really good introduction for our guest, Mr. Uddhav Poddar. He's the Managing Director and Group CEO of Bhumika Group, hails from the Poddar family with business interest in construction, manufacturing, entertainment, and logistics spread over the last 58 years. He's a young and dynamic leader. He's won many awards. He's been in the top 100 change makers list. And in this year, Forbes India did an entire story on him as well, based on his new landmark project and what he's doing as an entrepreneur. And you can see a glimpse of an image of one of those projects there on the screen. He's also been active with the Entrepreneurs Organization, president of the Jaipur chapter, and recently became the area director for EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, for South Asia region, which is a massive achievement. He's also a founding member of the Shopping Center Association of India, and his organization with real estate business and logistics company, as well as part of the group, has won many awards, including Images Shopping Center of the Year Award, Mixed Use Project of the Year Award, Emerging Developer of the Year Award. The list goes on. Everything is in the description below, so you can find out more about Uddhav and what he's doing. So on that note, let's get started with this episode. Uddhav, welcome.
Hi, Reg. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I think, Uddhav, one thing about you, I met you in 2017 in Jaipur at your EO chapter, and you definitely inspired me then just with a few words. I could see you were a man on a mission, but it wasn't always like that. There's many family businesses that have challenges, obstacles, economic crisis situations, family conflicts. And sometimes it's tough to bounce back. But you've got an inspirational story where you definitely bounced back. So could you tell us about how it all started and what was that big challenge that you had?
I'll start from the beginning. We were part of a family business. My father and his two younger brothers, they were running a large business empire. They had three large publicly traded companies, plus a host of other private limited companies, and quite a diverse portfolio of businesses. And when I was 19, 20, they went through a sort of a family separation, business separation among the three of them, because some of the businesses were going through some stress. So, that was one of the reasons why the separation talk started. And unfortunately for us, we got a financially sick business, which was into manufacturing of man-made fibers. And I was only 19 and 20. And so I started assisting my dad in running of that business. So that was my start. And then I'll say first 2-3 years of my life, I spent trying to reestablish that business. And it was very challenging. I moved to a new city, and I was just newly married. I moved to a new city, and it was very challenging. But what it made me realize in those 2-3 years, we ran the business very efficiently. What it made me realize is that business wasn't worth being in. And I was only 24, 25, but I could realize that this business wasn't a business to be in.
Right.
Highly competitive, and I didn't see myself making enough money in that business. So at a very young age, at age of 24, 25, I had to have a conversation with my father that we need to grow.
Like? How did you feel, at that time?
Well, I did all the backward engineering, studied all the data that I could. And if the writing was clearly on the wall, but my father couldn't see it because he was in love with the business. He started that business many years ago, and it was very close to his heart. So he didn't want to shut it down. And to me, it was very clear that there was no point being in this business. Yes. So it was a tough conversation, and not one, quite a few conversations. And eventually he did see what I was seeing, and we decided to close that business down. And then, in India, closing down businesses is not so simple. There's a lot of issues. It's probably tougher than starting a new business, especially if it's a large, old company. So there are financial institutions, lenders, lots of legal issues. So I actually spent 2-3 years winding it down, but that gave me a lot of learning. The kind of learning I got in those 2-3 years, I think no business school can teach me.
And what are some of those learnings? So for our viewers right now, if they're young entrepreneurs, maybe they're in their 20s, next gen members of a family business, what would be your top 3 tips based on what you went through around that time, especially if you were going through it all over again?
I think the first question I asked myself when I was in that business was, if I wasn't in this business already, would I enter it now? That was the question I asked myself.
Great question.
And the answer was a simple no. So, and that's what I always ask myself every 1 or 2 years. I always ask this question to myself that, guys, just because I'm in it doesn't mean I should continue doing it. Would you enter that field today? So that was a starting point for me. And while my learnings, I would say, is I dealt with multiple financial institutions, and it wasn't very easy. As a young entrepreneur, people didn't take you seriously. As a 24, 25-year-old guy, you're meeting a bank chairman.
Yes.
He doesn't take you very seriously, and especially when you're talking about a haircut that the bank needs to take on a loan or a restructuring. So
Yes.
those are conversations, but over a period of time, I think people realize that this guy wants to do something, and because I persevered, I think that was the thing. I persevered and I kept going back, even if and sometimes, Reg, you need to put your head down. You just need to put your head down, and even if the other guy is saying something, you need to listen to it if the times are bad. But you need to get your job done, even if you have to listen to those things at that time.
Can
So
I
those
ask you, when it came to the existing family business and then being left in this position, were there any assets to leverage, or was it like building a complete startup from scratch?
uh, by the end of it, by the time we closed down the business, we were pretty much left with not much, because we had to sell a lot of our personal assets to get out of the mess that we were in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what personal assets are built for. People sometimes don't take the decision. We took those decisions at that time. That is, the asset needs to be sold. It needs to be sold. We can't keep waiting and sitting on the fences and delaying the decision. So we took the decision at the right time. They were all tough decisions. Selling old assets which we owned for years.
Yeah, I got it. So what was the next steps in terms of rebuilding now, bouncing back? As you looked into the future, what were some of the aspirations that you had? Did it work out that way? Were you navigated down a different path to get there? What was that journey like?
I mean, of course, you aspire a lot, but it doesn't really work out exactly how you thought it out in your head. So it, of course, it took much longer than what I would have wanted it to. But after the closure of that business, I dabbled myself in 2, 3 different businesses, and not too successful, I would say. And except for the logistics business, which has been with me for a while now, so it's been with me for over 10, 12 years.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson. Sorry to come in. There's a lesson there, right there, which is you dabbled in a few things. I believe everybody should dabble in a few things. So I think you've got to experiment. Otherwise, how do you find your passion? And with those things you dabbled, what did you learn from them that helped you for the main business that you got into?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think this entire journey from learning, running a sick company, trying to revive it, to restructuring it, handling the legal issues, to starting 2, 3 new ventures, it gave me immense learning. I don't think if I was running my father's successful business, I would have ever seen this side of it. And so I'm actually lucky to some extent that I went through this journey at such a young age. And so, like I was telling you, the logistics is still stayed with me, but my big break was in the real estate space. Right after I closed down the business, I'd done an internship for about 6 months at a real estate private equity fund, which was promoted by someone known to me. And that gave me a good perspective about that business.
Why did you do that? Because this is another topic that comes up a lot in my episodes with chairmen of large family businesses, which is around why it's important for the next gen to do internships, to get work experience in different environments, and not maybe join a family business straight away or start something straight away. Why is this important?
I think I did it twice. Once at a cement company, and the other one was at the private equity fund. And it gave me immense insight, I must say. I think a lot of my thinking, I have those things. The way I learned how the business works. I think it's very, very different because we were running a business in a certain manner. This was a new vertical, and of course, at that time we were looking at starting something new. I was interested in that space, and so I joined it. And my father obviously supported me and allowed me to do the internship, and that's helped me immensely.
Yeah,
so I'll always say, if you work at a private equity fund, it's always very, very good for youngsters because they give you a perspective about business, on how you should see the business, how you should visualize the business, how to see the numbers. That's important.
So if somebody else there is right now looking to build a real estate business like you, being a great developer, I mean, we'll get into some of the projects in a few minutes that you're doing. how does one start? I mean, you sit there with a blank piece of paper, you've done some internships, and who would think a few years later you end up doing these mega, million square foot plus projects, winning multiple awards, and you're sitting there with a blank piece of paper. How does it start? How do you get from there to where you are now?
We thankfully had one piece of land, family land, a large tract of land in Udaipur, which is a large tourist town in Rajasthan. And I wanted to develop it. But the thing I did was I did a lot of research. I think I spent about a year and a half researching the opportunity. I engaged probably 8, 10 large consultants, and people probably thought that you're wasting money. Why do you need so many consultants? Why do you need to hire the best guys? Et cetera, et cetera. But that gave me very, very clear understanding of the business of that particular market. And I was very, very sure before I took the plunge. People, when I was starting out, were telling me, you're a first-time developer developing a 2 million square feet first project. Are you crazy?
Wow.
And that too in a small town, not a market which is established. I wasn't developing a project in Delhi or Mumbai. It was Udaipur. So, but because of the research, I was very clear. I was very, very convinced that we should go ahead with this.
So what happened? What came from the research? You spent a year and a half. You worked with consultants. You worked with great people. What came from the research to say, I am going to be crazy. I'm going for a 2 million square foot project, as my big landmark project, versus starting with a few houses or a few villas or a commercial building with 2 floors. Boom. What did that research tell you to go for that?
I think there was a big demand, and in that particular city, in certain segments, like there was no large commercial development in that city. There were no mixed-use developments in that city, and it's a large tourist town. There's nothing for tourists to do in the evening. It's people generally go to the tourist spots and then go back and retire in their hotels. So there was a large opportunity sitting, waiting, and nobody was tapping it. And everyone was only trying to cater to the high-end tourist segment, and nobody was catering to the domestic tourist segment, which is the mid-market hotel, and that's where the large traffic is, the large number of people. So I think there was a lot of untapped demand, and that's what the research showed us. Also, I met pretty much I must have met 20, 25 developers. I must have met each and every retail brand in that period, 1.5 years, just trying to get their perspective. What do they look for? Researching what are the successful malls in India, who were the architects who developed that. So what we did, we researched all the top malls. We got the best consultants, who are the best architects, who are the best PMC, who was the best XYZ, who successfully delivered multiple projects. And then it was a simple decision that we work with X architect because he delivered 10 successful malls in India already. We work with X consultant, he's delivered, so even if the fee was higher, it was unimportant because the research was so good. The study was so good.
I think valuable lessons there, whether it's real estate or someone's in a service-based industry or a manufacturing business or whatever it may be. I think the key there is you took your time to do your research and you spoke to people, and that gives you a lot of intelligence, doesn't it?
And confidence.
Yeah. And you realize, hang on, maybe this is not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, because you've ended up speaking to all of these people. And you now realize what the steps are. What about from a financial point of view? Having an idea is one thing, having a great bunch of people you can speak to is another, but then you've got to back it up. So what's that been like in terms of the journey of funding it?
It's been challenging, Reg, because India has actually gone through a lot of financial mess in the last few years. I don't know if you've been reading up, but there's a lot of banking crisis and NBFC crisis which India has focused. So what I did in my model, when I developed the model for the project, and this is what I learned at the fund where I was working, that how to not over leverage and how to. So we have developed parts of the development which are going to be held by us and leased to tenants, and certain parts of development are being sold to investors or to end users. So that helps us deleverage to a great extent, to the extent that pretty much if we sell a lot of stuff, we don't need to borrow. So and we were able to sell well because we did the research well, like I said. So from the minute we launched the project, we got immediate success, and the cash flow started coming in.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And when's the final completion? Tell us a bit more about the project, because there are phases, aren't there?
We're doing this in 2 phases. The first project phase is 1 million square feet, which is getting delivered before March in the coming year. So between January and March, we'll deliver this. And I'd like to say, after we launched this project, real estate in India has seen a sea of change. India has there were lots of issues, and a lot of existing players have actually struggled in the last 3-4 years because there was demonetization, and there was GST, which came into India, and most recently there was RERA, which is real estate regulatory. India was generally unregulated for real estate, so they got a regulatory body which controls how you use the funds that investors give you, and how do you deploy it, etc., etc. So there was a lot of change which happened. And despite all these challenges, and of course, COVID has come. In the last 1 year, we got COVID.
Yeah.
Despite all these challenges, we've been able to deliver our project not on time, but before time. And I think we are one of the very, very few, very, very few.
How many people do you employ now in the real estate business?
I mean, on my roles would be about 60 odd people. Well, of course, there are PMCs and consultants and contractors. Because
I'm just asking, because that's quite lean, for such a big project, and then everything else would be outsourced. Is that right?
Everything is outsourced.
So now, what question I've got for you? Being in Dubai and in the UAE, I've seen multiple projects being developed and worked with many clients who've been in the construction industry. When you're working on a project like this, as an entrepreneur who's making this happen, I'm sure there's many other things going on in the back of your mind for the future. So in parallel, while you've got your team working on this, what else is going on for your group when you think about the future?
Right. There were two aspects to this. Of course, we've been thinking, and we're getting a lot of opportunity in the last couple of years, because seeing the kind of development we were doing, a lot of A-grade landowners who had prime lands were offering their lands to us at very attractive terms on joint venture, joint partnership, etc., terms. While we wanted to do them, so we took up a couple of them, but we were very clear that we don't want to go crazy. We wanted to see the first project through end to end, from start to delivering it, right? And see the whole cycle. So now that the cycle is coming to an end, we are now again, we're lining up new project launches now. But we were very clear we wanted to see the whole cycle through, and I think it's very good that we took that decision, because there were so many challenges, like I told you, in this period. And if we would have probably gone crazy and started 10 projects at that stage, we would be another developer, like another Indian developer, stuck with all the 10 projects.
Yeah. So what's your vision? What do you see like by 2030, 10 years from now? If we're meeting up again and we're celebrating, looking back, saying congratulations over what's happened the last 10 years, what sort of projects would you be building, do you think?
So we're building retail-focused projects across Rajasthan and NCR, which is the national capital of India, which is around Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida belt. And we're looking at getting into the affordable housing segment, which is a very, very fast-growing sector, where the Prime Minister has a vision of housing for all, and India has a huge population. So we're looking at doing two verticals of business. One is the commercial, which is high profitability, but capital intensive. And the low-cost housing is low capital intensive, low margin, but fast turnaround projects.
Fantastic. So let's talk about some other areas, because I think this is all interesting. Again, people could go down to the description area. There's links to your website. There's links to you on social media to find out more, see how they can invest in your projects, partner with you, whatever comes up. So talking more about the entrepreneurial side, and you've been part of EO for many years, could you maybe educate our viewers, for those, especially the young entrepreneurs, whether it's EO, there's YPO, we've also got our Family Business Academy group as well with peer-to-peer group learning. Why is this important to be part of what we call mastermind groups or have peer-to-peer group learning as an entrepreneur? And how's it helped?
I think if you ask me, EO has opened up my mind, when you see so many successful entrepreneurs doing so well, excelling, taking the plunge and sitting right next to you, that just inspires me, hearing each other's story. Also, EO and YPO have this concept of forums where you share your business challenges, and others then share their experiences in similar situations. That's helped me immensely. Also, getting access to amazing speakers like you. I learned a lot from our session with you. And similarly, amazing speakers across the globe, we get access to them, which we normally would not get. And these help us run our business as well. Yeah. So very, very important. I think it's changed my perspective, and I sell EO to everybody, whoever I meet.
That's brilliant. Well, again, we'll make sure though those details are below so you can find out more about EO. Your group company, how did you, because you told me earlier, but how did you come to the decision of naming your group company with the name of your wife?
Well, it was a new venture I was starting, and I thought my wife has always brought me luck. That was the real reason. And I of course, told my wife, like, see how important you are to me, and I've named my company after you, my big venture. So she was happy with that as well.
Well, that's one way of delighting your wife permanently. Everyone who's watching now, all the males who are watching this now, this is how you delight your wife. Change your company name to your wife's name. Okay. There's a strategy right there, isn't there, Uddhav?
It's just living happily ever after.
Now, when it comes to the family business side now, so going back to what happened in the past, rebuilding, how is your group company now connected to with other family members? How does that work in terms of a structure?
No, so that in terms of my business now, we're totally independent. My wife assists me to some extent. My father's retired, so of course he's part of us, but he's not actively involved in business. My uncles are running their own businesses. The one thing which my father taught me even during the tough separation was that you must have great relations with your family at any cost. So our relations amongst us are still amazing. When I go to one of my uncles stays in Calcutta, but the other stays in Chennai. When I go to their cities, I always end up staying with them. And that's been told to us that when you go to their city, don't go and stay in a hotel. Go and stay with them, spend time with them. So we always follow that, and they do the same. And that's kept our family together. All our cousins are still very tight, running different businesses though.
So, what would be some of the other things that you feel you need to implement for your next generation? You've been on my sessions and many other sessions around the world on family business where, because of what you went through and then becoming independent and starting again, there's always going to be similar challenges that will come up in the future again, with dynamics and next gen and so on. So what's important to you now to build the right foundation, not for your next property project, but the foundation for your family?
I think the first thing is to get the right values in, right? And I think I got some of those from my father and from my family business. So I saw a lot of hard work being put in from day one. My father would not be available because he'd be traveling for work, and I would see that, and a lot of other kids' parents would be available. But I realized that where the hard work was going, and always there was no shortcuts. We were always told there are no shortcuts to success, and even if some shortcut kind of offer came on the table, my father was the first one to reject it. you know and so those are some of the things. The other thing I learned from him is, even when he was in a very, very tough spot, he never ran away from the situation, which I learned. He handled it head on, handled it the way it was supposed to be handled. He didn't run away from the situation, and I think I've learned that from him. Also, something which he told me when I was very young is, even when I just started joined him in his business, and he was in a tough business situation. Even then, he told me, don't always think big. This was the one thing which he told me. Don't, just because you're in a tough spot, don't start or don't narrow down your vision. Keep your vision wide, even if you can't execute it right away, but your vision has to be wide. So I think also the 2 million square feet project first up probably stems from 10 years back when he told me that, because I didn't want to just narrow down my horizon just because I didn't have the resources. I was pretty sure the resources would follow if the project is good, if the opportunity is large enough.
Yeah. So would you say it's good to think big?
Absolutely, 100%.
But it scares a lot of people, doesn't it?
I mean, I guess everyone to their own, but for me, that's what it is. That gives me goosebumps. When I see something like that, it gives me goosebumps. When I start thinking about something larger than what I'm doing already, I start getting excited.
And what's your family principles, your principles and interpretation of wealth? Money. That always comes up with family businesses. You're doing such a big project. I'm sure you'll do extremely well from a wealth point of view. But then, when money comes into your family, what are your thoughts around what money means to you and wealth creation for the future?
This is again something I learned from back in the day. Indian families traditionally didn't focus on wealth management. They didn't know what was happening with the money, and we learned it the hard way, I think, back in the day. And so even though you had wealth, it wasn't quite available when you needed it, right? So what we're doing, of course, is me and my wife are quite, I'll say, we're quite particular about this. We're quite disciplined in our approach. So we've identified our important areas. Of course, we work with wealth managers and professionals to help us manage the wealth. But we've identified our priorities. What are our priorities for us? And we make sure that the money goes in there. It's not like we don't know what's happening like it was happening earlier. So from that point of view, we're disciplined. And I think the key thing is to plan, what you want to do with the money. Because once it starts flowing in, you don't have the time to plan then. So
Yeah,
that's what
exactly. And I like the discipline part of what you're saying, because like when we work with clients and put together family constitutions and charters, one of the key things that comes up with the vision is around a reserve policy. So make sure that some is put away. You support the basic welfare management areas for the family, for this generation and future generations, rather than some entrepreneurs who risk it all, don't they? The money comes in, they risk it all again, or maybe on another project or another business venture, and there's no reserves.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's how traditionally was happening in our family as well. So we've learned it the hard way, and we're maintaining a disciplined approach in this manner.
What's your thoughts on debt? Debt is good, debt is bad. What's your thoughts on leverage?
Look, it's a double-edged sword, I would say. But if you want to grow, you need leverage. Especially in businesses like ours. So as long as your business plan is good and you have a plan B, don't get don't plan everything around debt. So you have to have an exit option apart from debt also, that how will you service it. So I think if you want to grow, of course you need debt. You can't stay away from debt. But of course you have to be practical, like I told you, what we've done in our projects. We're selling certain parts of the project so that the project leverage is in control. It's not highly leveraged projects. In fact, very, very low leverage projects, I would say, is what we are doing right now.
Fantastic.
But of course leverage is required. I understand that.
So quick responses on some other topics. Strategy. What's your thoughts on building a good strategy?
So we have these strategy sessions every year where we, it's very, very important, I would say. And I started doing it 2 years back. Till then it was all in my head, but it wasn't in my team's head what I was thinking. So the strategy session is one, of course, to explain what I am thinking to my team, and the other is to get their inputs and get their strategy in my head, and we then come out with a consolidated strategy. And we do a 1 year, 3 year, and a 10-year plan, and we try to focus it on focus on that, and we then have each and every head of department has their target set based on our strategy, what our eventual strategy is, and then we follow it up on a weekly basis. Every week we have a 1 hour, 2 hour meeting where we review all of that. So it's helped me immensely. Yes.
Yeah. So again, whoever's watching this, maybe you need to go back and just listen to Dev's words again. There's a lot of gems there with what he just said, getting things out of his head with his team, getting input from his team. These are things that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. They don't even get things out of their head. There's an assumption that everyone around them knows what their vision is and what they're thinking, and they don't. And I like the idea of that weekly rhythm. There's got to be regular communication to make sure, are we on track or are we not on track? So I like that. What about people? You've got 70 good people, you believe in hiring good talent. What's worked and what hasn't worked? What are some of the challenges of building the right dream team?
So without people, you can't do anything. And I must say, I was a newcomer in this business 4 years back when I started it. So if it wasn't for the team or the talent that I hired, but the challenge was, of course, at that stage was, how do you attract top talent, right? Of course, it was only my vision that time, and thankfully people bought into it. And but I believe in hiring the best talent and retaining them, and that's what's helped me all through whatever I've done, and that's it.
So how did you convince these people with experience to join you? And they look at you going, this is young man. He's never been involved in this business before. He's never done a project of this size, and we're going to join him. People could be thinking this is risky.
Yeah. No, so I think that the one advantage I had was that the family had a name, so people knew that the family name, they trusted the family name to some extent, right? But we didn't have a name in this particular business, so that was new to them. But they saw my vision, they saw my craziness, I guess, and they wanted to be part of this growth story.
Now, I also believe that there's with entrepreneurs. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Most of my talent has come from the top companies in India, top absolute number 1, number 2 companies, and they left those companies and joined me. And I must say that even now, what gives me the most amount of satisfaction is all the stakeholders want to work with us. Whether it's talent from A-grade companies, we keep attracting them, they keep coming to us. Whether it's landowners, whether it's brands, who we worked in this project are telling us where they want to expand. They're telling me, that please develop a project in this city, this location, etc., etc. Plus, even contractors, vendors, whatever commitment, Reg, we do, there is no delay or no one needs to come back to us for that. And I think that is something, again, which I've learned back in the day, that whatever commitment you do, don't overcommit, but overperform.
Yeah. And that's what's building your reputation right now. Yeah, this is great. And when it comes to building a dream team and locking people in, is it just about salaries, or is it about building good incentive plans? What's your thoughts on getting that balance right?
Well, of course, I think finance is important for everybody, and everybody wants a good salary, but everybody wants to be in the right company in the right environment. I think that's very important. Need to give them the freedom to work. A lot of people came to me probably working in larger organizations, but they didn't have any freedom on how to perform. And so I think that's important. And of course, building a structure around how your interests and their interests are aligned. If you can somehow get to that, it's not very easy. It sounds easy to say. That also helps.
Yeah. And what is your entrepreneurial leadership style? There's people, like you mentioned the word freedom. So there's some people who let people get on with it. They'll have their weekly review meetings. They have a pulse of what's going on. There's others who like to micromanage. There's others who have the dictator style of leadership, and everyone, tell everyone what to do and then follow up. What's your, if I was to call up all the people that work for you and say, tell me about your boss, what would they say to me? What would they tell me?
A mix of all of these. So I don't like to get into the minute details, but I'm very strong on follow up. I'm very, very strong on follow up, and I don't let it pass. So that's one thing. Like if someone's made a commitment to me or about a performance and it's not happened, I will bring it up and I will remind him, and I don't let it pass. So that's one thing. I'm strong on follow up, but I don't like to micromanage. I want people to do their job and get me the result. I don't want to listen to excuses why it didn't get done. If you were facing a challenge, you should have reached out to me earlier and told me how I can assist you. Don't come to the weekly, monthly meeting telling me you couldn't do your numbers. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I can sense that just the way you spoke then of where you've got that balance of being hard and soft. So outside of the things we discussed, when you look at India now overall, maybe just a minute or so on, where are the other opportunities in India, that you can see for the future with such a big population and what's going on right now? Where is there opportunities?
I think there's opportunity in pretty much every sector right now in India. There's a strong government in India. Earlier, we had governments which were, based on multiple parties, so they couldn't take strong decisions. Thankfully, last 2 terms, we've got a single party running the show, which is after, I think, 10, 15 years. So that's why we're seeing good governance. And there's a lot of regulatory changes which have happened in the last few years, which are good, all positive. India's ease of doing business ranking has substantially jumped. In the last 3-4 years, we have gone up many, many notches. And the Prime Minister keeps a close tap on that. In fact, there are states who are doing that. So I think there's a sort of competition among states on who's performing better on those rankings. The opportunity is very, very good on infrastructure, real estate, any consumer business, now also manufacturing. Because with COVID and the China situation in India, the entire supply side and logistics is being India wants to bring it into India. They want the manufacturing to shift to India, and a lot of countries like America are also wanting to shift based on China to other countries, and that's bringing in an opportunity in India. But on real estate, I think there's a large opportunity. The Prime Minister has a vision for housing for all. India is highly underdeveloped, I would say, right now, and there is a mission now to create large cities. Many large cities. India probably had only 8-10 large cities, but there is now a smart city vision of 100 cities, which the government is pushing, and I think that's creating urbanization.
Fantastic. So, it's been a great interview. I think hopefully our viewers have been inspired, especially next-gen entrepreneurs who are watching this right now. And now I can understand why Forbes India wanted to do a piece on you, with your success and inspiring people. So just to close off, what other message or words of wisdom have you got for young entrepreneurs getting into business or wanting to get into business? What could you leave them with?
I think, Greg, I also want to talk about one more thing, which is about family business. And, I think I touch upon this and I'd like to talk about it is I realized that we didn't have conversations in our family back in the day. I think it's important to have conversations and openness and get alignment in thought, and of course, involve people like you to get a structure in place. But first, have the conversation, listen to the other person. Maybe his his thoughts. Maybe my son doesn't want to be into business, but you have to have a conversation and then plan around that. So I think that's very important for all business families, that to have conversations and try and bring alignment in thought on how we will go ahead together. It's not just my way or the highway, just because I'm on the show.
Yeah, you got it. Communication. That whenever there's a blockage in a family, the root cause is lack of communication. That's creating lack of unity. So the more we can, and as you know, with your experience with Entrepreneurs Organization and all the work you do, there's so many different personalities, different people in a family environment, and it's understanding them. Not everyone's built like we are. They look through a different lens. They have a different color that they're looking at, and that's where the understanding has to happen, linked with communication.
I think as a family business leader, one has to create an environment where those people can come and express themselves. That's the most important thing. If you're not creating an environment where people can come and talk to you or can express their feelings to you, then there's a problem.
Yeah, you got it. Lots to learn there. So going back to the other question, final tips for young entrepreneurs, people in their 20s who've got an idea or a bit scared, have a bit of fear, maybe lacking a bit of confidence of what they should do. What words of wisdom can you give them? What can you do to inspire them?
I think the only thing, the 2-3 things that I've learned in my life is that keep working hard, keep your head down, keep working hard, and it's a matter of time. The result will come. It's taken me a long time till I saw success. First few years was all failures or average performance. But if you keep working hard and you have clarity in your mind, and the success is around the corner. Sometimes it comes faster than you probably thought it'd come.
Yeah. Well, on that note, it's been a great interview. Lots of gems there that you've shared. I hope we've inspired our audience. Definitely go to the description area, find out more about the group company and the various businesses that Uddhav has. And there's also a link on social media. Follow the company on LinkedIn. They're doing some amazing things. Always great stories being updated on LinkedIn as well on a regular basis. Uddhav, I look forward to doing this again in the near future, and we'll see how the story evolves.
Thank you, Reg. Thank you for having me again. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.